Executive order, Operation Flashpoint. Rip out the heart of their space program. Eradicate their long-range missile project. Take out the Ascension Group. Nazis, scientists, co-opted by the Russians after the war.
She needed their knowledge. What they'd learned.
Operation 40 had planted a double agent working with the Ascension Group.
Echo Glory Weaver. His mission was to sabotage the rocket.
But something went wrong, Mason.
I can't get these fucking numbers out of my head.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Recall Gaming. This is the Black Ops campaign veteran walkthrough. We've got another 3 levels in this one for you. We're starting with Executive Order, which I think is a level that has the real potential to get you a bit stuck. This is probably one of the hardest early tests of the campaign on veteran, unless you're struggling with it all already, which is possible, but the end checkpoint in this level is one that is a bit infamous for being pretty tricky, and I have to say it's one of those that, again, I've done a few times and I don't find too bad, but this most recent playthrough, it actually gave me quite a bit of grief, so yeah, well, I'll talk you through it when we get there. It didn't take me too many attempts. I think I only had to delete about 3 minutes of footage, which for one quick checkpoint isn't great, but it's not horrendous when you're looking at, I remember the first time I did Heart of the Reich, I was looking at like nearly 2 hours just trying to take out them 4 flat guns. Or it's even just 2, isn't it? Or is it 3? If you've got to take 3 out for the checkpoint or something daft like that. So, yeah, it's not too bad, this one, but hopefully you guys have enjoyed the return of Recall Gaming. Probably a bit of a shock to a lot of you, all of a sudden seeing 2 uploads on the channel. I included I did a trophy guide video as well. I'm going to just include a few of them when I can, because when I did this campaign I managed to tick a few off, so obviously I've got the footage and I thought, well, I might as well use it. So where possible, you might see one or two of them videos just pop up as well. But as I say, I wanted to show this game off in its whole, because some of you might be thinking, in terms of a veteran walkthrough, I could have really cleaned this footage, I could have cut all this out, but I've kind of kept all this in for those that, you know, I know for fans of the channel who may have played this game back in the day, aren't too interested in picking up this port, which I totally understand for the price that they're charging and stuff like that, and maybe just, you know, kind of done with Call of Duty and whatnot, but they can at least get to see some side of the story, remember some scenes. I know I'm talking very much over it, so you're not getting the full experience, but it should provide a bit of, you know, continuity. I always thought it was kind of weird how they just introduced Kravchenko here, even as like a young teenager. Were I a teenager when this came out?
This is not good.
No, I was about to turn a teenager, I believe. So yeah, I was still a young kid. We can get away with saying young kid. But yeah, they just kind of introduced this guy Kravchenko, and Sam Worthington's line is like really just seems forced in, where he's like, "Oh, Dragovich is second in command." To the point, the way that line's said and read and the way it's put in, I actually thought the first time he said it that Dragovich is second in command and that this Kravchenko dude was in charge. And it was probably me just being stupid, even at, you know, that young age. But I must admit, the way some of the lines are put in later, and there's a really clear example of it later on with one of the lines Ed Harris, Jason Hudson has, that they've just really badly put in there. They must not have been able to get enough takes or whatever. And I must admit, there is now and then a bit of a sloppiness to Black Ops that I think Modern Warfare 2 didn't have. But I ain't going to rag on this game, because I really do enjoy this game. But it's just stuff that's come to my mind then. And I don't really need to talk you through much difficulty here, because we are very much doing kind of the infamous Call of Duty thing of just following someone, where you very much are just turning your brain off and you have to do the game exactly what it asks when it asks. I mean, it ain't quite Rockstar bad, you know, like GTA, but it's not far off. And you know, this is something that always disappoints me. You get these moments in this campaign like now, you get this, was it called a karambit knife? You get these cool knives now and then, but you never really get to use them very much in game. It's kind of disappointing, actually, but you know, you're always stuck with what it seems like a standard knife, and none of these ever translated to anything with gameplay. I mean, Black Ops 2 did that kind of cool, because you could get like a sword and like those like taser knuckles or whatever in the 2025 levels. I was going to say future levels of Black Ops 2, but they're not future anymore. They're the past, because we are getting old, getting too old for this shit. But yeah, I say there's a few lines in there where I'm like, man, they've recorded that bizarrely. And of course, the obvious thing that Kravchenko just looks like Zakayev, but of course we already featured the level from Black Ops Cold War on the 20 Years of COD that showed that, yeah, it is actually the same old. It's the same old universe. I really enjoyed that level. Is it Desperate Measures in the KGB headquarters? Probably the highlight of the whole game, and the culmination of what they started with Call of Duty World War II's stealth level, and they just absolutely nailed it with that one. But yeah, they confirmed with that Zakayev was part of the universe. Now I don't know if we're going off the Modern Warfare reboot universe. I'm hoping that it's going off the old one because that's very much the chronology that I prefer to follow. I'm not a massive fan of Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3 story-wise, what they've done, particularly 3. You know, I mean, I quite liked some of the ideas Modern Warfare 2 did. I'm definitely going to replay through Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3 in preparation for Modern Warfare 4 because obviously, well, Modern Warfare 1 not so much. Modern Warfare 2 and 3, I've only played through them once. And of course, I've done that for YouTube. I did, playthroughs my first time through, like blind playthroughs, basically. And, obviously, I've got to focus on a lot more than just playing the game there. I've got to focus on my commentating and making sure the footage and everything. So I didn't fully probably commit or take as much in as I normally would, or piss about as much and explore things as much as I probably could have done. Like the dialogue options, I think, with the torture, although I'd have to rewatch my footage. Maybe I got that wrong all the time, I don't know. So I'll have to go back and do that, because I quite liked the Mexican angle in Modern Warfare 2. That was quite difficult, especially the level with the border. It was quite interesting. That was kind of ballsy for Call of Duty to touch like a pretty controversial modern subject at this moment in time with the border situation. But obviously it didn't have anything to say on the matter or anything like that, but it used the setting, which was kind of cool. So yeah. Now, you're going to see something kind of interesting here. I will talk difficulty. There is an ability to get like a context knockdown here, and I kept trying to do it for the life of me. Hence why there's an edit here, because this isn't a particularly hard room to clear. But if you go up to this guy in a certain way and press R3 at the right time, Mason will actually throw him into that equipment. I couldn't do it, so that's why I knifed him in the back. And at that point, I just went, oh, sod it, because I tried about 3 or 4 times. And I was like, I really want to get the footage for you guys, but I'm just wanting to get on with the game at that point. My patience was wearing pretty thin. But grenades are your friend here. Just use grenades. I love using the Python because for some reason it's really good at taking limbs off. They made this gun really powerful. It's got some World at War like PTSR, anti-tank sniper rifle qualities about it. It's just absolute. I mean, look at this dude. Oh, he hasn't actually lost his leg, but even so, there'll be some people that do when I hit them with this. And you can do some more of them context actions in a minute, and I will do one on the snipers on top of the roof. I think you can do it on all of them if you do it in a certain order, because you can sneak and you can stealth them all. But I do recommend doing it to one of them, because the guy who I push just falls onto the staircase and it doesn't look that dramatic. If you push like another one off, like if you push someone else off, not this guy, he like goes all the way to the bottom and it just looks a little bit cooler than that. That looks a bit flat. I always thought that animation. But even so, take out the other snipers. There's 3, so don't let them catch you out. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I was really bad at as a kid. Playing this when I did it on Veteran, because I'd be so cautious. And as I said in the first part, doing the first three levels, speed is sometimes your key. Like there, I'm pushing the issue on the AI. The AI is having to react to me as opposed to me being on the back foot. AI just minces me because it's got far better aim than me, far better reaction time because it's a computer. So yeah, using speed a lot of the time, not all the time, but sometimes, is generally a much better advice. And here you get to use the explosive crossbow, which you can't help but love. As I miss a shot. One trick for later when using this, because when you go to normal, if you want to go back to like using, I don't think you actually have the normal bolts in this one, but WMD level, if you just use the D-pad to switch to it, it's a lot quicker than trying to do the triangle tap technique. I love it when you can like stick one of these guys with these, because you get this reaction here where he's like, whoa, someone's on me, and then he just gone, just in bits. It always disappointed me that the multiplayer didn't have that, because I think that's one of the edges World at War multiplayer had, is that gore was very much in the multiplayer as well. You'd be playing online and it's one thing getting your ass kicked, but then when you see your legs are flying off, it just makes it all the more like, wow, what am I we're in for the I'm getting pummeled literally. But Save Weaver here with some very Hollywood style stuff that, again, I was talking about, wasn't really in COD 4 when you look back. It's kind of funny how tame COD 4 is in that that aspect, even though I still think it's like in the top 2 Call of Duty campaigns, but it is way tamer than what come afterwards in Modern Warfare 2 and onwards. And people always think Call of Duty is the power fantasy of, like, you know, but it really wasn't that Halo power fantasy at all in those early games. So we'll get a quick cutscene here. I'll shut up and let this play out.
Now you had to locate the Ascension group and kill the scientists.
No. I had to kill Dragovich.
So this is a moment that I think has the potential to be a tad tricky. We've got 5 minutes on this checkpoint. I mean, it is more than enough time. But this is one of those that if you take a bit too long, I don't think the game will checkpoint, but it's not an issue I've particularly had. Yeah, so you'd have to take this pretty slow and steady for that to occur. But these moments are a lot better than they were in like COD 4 because there is no infinite respawning here. You can, I think there are aspects to infinite respawning, but it's a lot less. It's a lot more forgiving. Like the enemies seem to take their time to respawn a bit more, apart from 1 or 2 moments in the campaign. So you can actually thin the herd out a bit and move a lot slower and a lot safer. And I think the dolphin dive, which you do by holding circle when sprinting, can change a lot as well, because I used to do my own version of the dolphin dive on the other Call of Duties, and if World at War gets ported over, you'll see me do it, because it's where I jump, so press X and I hold prone as I'm like mid-air, so I kind of get that jump and dive effect. But what it does is it just gets me prone really quickly and gives me that that advantage of getting to the ground quick and staying safe and getting my health re-healed and fighting again, basically. Obviously in this game you've just got the dolphin dive, which can knack you at times because obviously you lose the ability to shoot and you're a bit stuck in motion, a bit like that. I mean, it did nearly get me killed there. Probably wasn't the best idea, but I think sometimes it just throws the AI off in terms of where it's hitting you. So you do get that, you know, you get that moment or that second or two to just go again. And you know, in a veteran campaign where, you know, split decision making is the key between the AI getting you and you getting them, those little advantages like by dolphin diving at the right time just buy you enough time to survive and go again. One thing to note, you do have smoke grenades in this level. That's what your secondary grenade is in the bottom right there. You probably don't need to use them. I would recommend not using them until the very end of this level because, you know, don't waste them, because smoke grenades were a big... Call of Duty 2 was all about smoke grenades, and so was Call of Duty 3. And using smoke grenades at the right time was imperative to success, and the problem was you very rarely got refills of them. Not like grenades where you just stand over a few enemies and get them. Smoke grenades generally don't come back once they're gone, so... You know, you got to use them at the right time, and using them at the right time totally changes... look at the carnage here, by the way, diving away. But using them at the right time basically can change the complete difficulty of a section. But as you can see, guys, I'm being aggressive here. If you're struggling on veteran a bit, try be a bit more aggressive now and then. Not to a fault, because if you are struggling, then going slow and steady will help you. But as you can see there, I dolphin dive straight into him because I'm back in my auto aim, you know, pressing L2 in this case, or LT on Xbox. I'm backing that's going to lock onto them quicker than they can lock onto me. As I dolphin dive here, and it doesn't look very cool because you can't detonate in midair. But we're going to take out the rocket here. This is all pretty straightforward. You're not going to fail this, although I think it's got a pretty janky detection as the rocket. You need to very much hit it in the middle of it. If you try to fit it under it, which is what I used to do all the time, the rocket light goes through and just like vanishes. So you have to be pretty careful of that when you're doing it. So just bear that in mind. Make sure you try and go for the base as I do there, and you'll definitely hit it. And one thing I do absolutely love about all this is that you really do feel the carnage of this rocket coming down. Which is good, because I don't think that's something Call of Duty would always do. Now it'd just be like, oh, you destroyed the rocket, but this stuff is dropping all around you. I do recommend picking up an AK-47 here. Take an AK with an attachment of your choice. I think I'd go for extended mags. I might pick up the dual mag, actually, because that just gives me that extra split-second reloading. And we get a unique little camo on there. I think you can also pick up the shotgun. I don't know if I do that. There is a lot of KS-23 shotguns down here, so it's very much like the game's saying Tech one, but I'd probably stick with the MP5 because it's got so much ammo, and, you know, extended mags is a good... You know, that does well from the short range, and I can follow up a shot. Shotgun, you miss and you kind of... It's game over. It's no Nasher from Gears of War, although it is a pretty good shotgun. But this isn't the checkpoint you're going to struggle with. That's coming up in a second. So we'll get around here. Just use cover to cover. You're going to have to go a little bit slower here, but again, use your AI teammates. And what I mean by that is get far forward. Like, push into the enemies as close as you can and get prone somewhere like this, and it'll just get your AI moving upwards a little bit. And in doing so, that means that you're going to be safe. Because once your AI pushes up, that basically means the area is clear, and they'll kill enemies instantly, and they can't die, obviously. And you won't get caught out like I potentially can do here. So I think I'm going to head left. I think that's the course of action here. So clear that guy there. I mean, I'm just thinking back to my teenager. I really struggled at pulling a lot of these shots off. So, you know, anyone can do this veteran mode. You just have to be persistent. But yeah, having years and years of Call of Duty experience behind you in FPS really does go a long way. Just knowing the snap of the L2, the quick aim. But here's a checkpoint that everyone struggles with, including myself on this recent playthrough. Getting through this first bit's pretty simple. You can go pretty quick or you can go pretty slow. It really doesn't matter here. Just use cover wisely and get to the entrance doors, and then it's going to actually... I'm going to have to instruct you through it. Because at the end of the day, I did call this a veteran walkthrough, and it needs to serve as one. I do think a lot of the trouble I was having at the time when I was trying to do this, I wasn't fully concentrating. I was talking to someone next to me, and so these are these moments where you kind of got to lock in a bit. So I think after a few goes, I think they finally got the hint that I was really trying to lock in and get this done, and I had a guy that did it pretty quick after that. But this is the tricky bit. You thin the herd a bit. I jump here. I tend to use the left one, but if you go to your left, you can get stuck there quite easily because they'll happily pin you down. Now I'm going to throw smoke. As I say, smoke's useful. It's not as useful as in COD 2, but it will stop the enemies. And then get to this room on the right. That's imperative here. And try and clear this main hallway bit out, and then I'm going to go around the outside. Careful not to go too far out because you will just get picked off there. Always using that L2 aiming and just trying to deal with any threats. You know, I think sometimes just putting the AI under fire does suppress them a little bit. I don't think there's much to that mechanic, but I do think it just puts them off a bit. You know, the Simp Brothers in arms, they're not going to be holding off. But get to here, and what you got to do is you got to get into that locker room there. If you get in that locker room there, you're pretty much getting a checkpoint, but don't just sprint in, because checkpoints can pop a bit weirdly in this game. So I'm going to throw another smoke because we're near the end of the level. Once you get here, use smokes liberally because you've got 4, you might as well use them. As you can see, I'm being very tentative because I've died a few times here, but run in here, take out the enemies because there will be like 2 to 3 in there, so even throw a smoke grenade in here if you want. And once you clear this out, the game will pretty much just give you a checkpoint. As you can see down your left, I do die here, so I've run out and I'm going to run back in, and it's just a case of them pushing. You know, you can take this end bit pretty slow because it's at this point the game will not infinite respawn. It's where it's a lot better Call of Duty. I mean, what is happening here? It can be hard not hitting your teammates because obviously they're all wearing the same uniforms as the enemies. This is where Call of Duty at this point become a lot harder to define your enemies. It's far easier in World War II games because you've got the guys in grey. You know, unless you're fighting the Bolshevik parachute unit, which isn't that often. It can get pretty tricky. Now you're going to get rushed by a load of enemies here, so just be a little careful. I used to throw a lot of smoke and just pin them down. And again, your AI will push up and just deal with them, really. And that's pretty much that level done. As I say, felt like I had to talk you through that one because it's a little bit of a hard one. But I'll go quiet and let the cutscenes play out so you guys can get a gist of the story, and we'll pick this up in Vietnam in 5 years' time.
Before we could get to him.
You were getting close. Dragovich was there, wasn't he?
We searched the whole base. Couldn't find the bastard
This is a
anywhere.
waste of time. He's delusional.
But then we ran into Dragovich's limo. I had him.
Satisfied, Mason?
No, not yet. Not until I see the body.
Dragovich, did you confirm the kill?
Trust me. That rat ass is a fucking charcoal briquette.
Somehow I knew Dragovich was still alive.
He became your obsession. You spent the next 5 years trying to track him down.
He was everywhere. I couldn't get him out of my head. He's just like the others.
We found so much shit into him, he doesn't even know what he's
Voices,
saying.
Russians, just always in my head.
No, I want to keep pressing you.
Hey! Who are you people? What do you want from me?
We want the numbers, Mason. That's all we've ever wanted. Take us back again, Mason. After Baikonur, where did Washington send you next?
Vietnam. Fucking Quezon.
This was in 1968.
Yeah, I was part of the SOG unit led by Frank Woods. It was recon on covert Russian activity in Laos.
What about your CIA handler, Hudson? Was he in Quezon? Do you remember him there?
Hudson. And Mr. Shades. The guy was an ice cube.
This is the Psychedelic Music Show at AFVN. I'm Army Specialist Zach Johnson. Our APO here is 96309. If you send a request to that number, what we do is we open it like this. When it arrives, we read it.
So this is mission 5. We've gone a 5-year leap here. We're now in Vietnam. Now I'm gonna test this. I'm gonna let the I was gonna say Rolling Stones. It's not Rolling Stones. I'm gonna let Fortunate Son play to get you in the mood. If I have to cut this bit out, and then so be it. So I'll leave this in as it is.
Mason,
Woods, you look like hammered shit.
like some kind for shit in the jungle. This is nah, baby.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Jason Hudson, CIA. Thank you for your time, Sergeant.
Right.
I've already briefed Mason broadly about the situation.
Let me fill in the blanks for you. Back in '64, the CIA gave up control of covert operations in Southeast Asia, handed it over to the U.S. military. From that, McAfee SOG was born. Now, aside from being a base for the Marine Corps,
It's really interesting just listening to that sequence. Obviously, you have Ed Harris voicing Hudson in here, and Hudson is such a strange character because they've just got a different guy to voice him like every time. In Black Ops 2, it's Michael Keaton. But again, Michael Keaton, pretty cool, famous Hollywood actor, but he's not Ed Harris, and it just totally changes the character. They couldn't have gone for someone who sounded a little bit similar. It is like basically another character, but I remember that shot being featured in the trailer. But here's Call of Duty's first ever foray into Vietnam, and I think for years it's still a big topic of debate. I think a lot of people still want a Call of Duty to just do Vietnam, you know, because whenever people mention it, people always just bond with like a picture of this level or the Defector or something, and it's like, yeah, this game has, I think, is it three, four, as many as, is it 5 Vietnam levels set in Vietnam? But I still have to agree with the people that it would be cool to get a good Vietnam game, but I'm not sure Call of Duty is the series to do it anymore. I always think that kind of trendsetter should have been Medal of Honor, and I've spent a lot of my time over the last year mainly talking to AI, because this is you can end up down such a rabbit hole, and I did, talking about a Korean war game, and I'm so desperate for a Korean war game. I think it's such a conflict with so much potential for video gaming. It had a lot of variety to it, despite the stalemate that kind of occurs after 1951. But, you know, you got the landings at Icheon, I think it's pronounced that, you know, where you can start the game off. And with Medal of Honor, you could bring back Jimmy Patterson, which is what I ended up doing with AI, and it mapped out a whole game for me, and how it would work and the kind of weapon that could be used. And you got jets and stuff as well, and with Jimmy Patterson's character in Medal of Honor, it's established you can fly him, because you steal that jet in Medal of Honor Frontline, the experimental Nazi Germany one, which is how I would open the game, actually, with like a flashback sequence to that before going into the landing at Icheon. Again, if I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that, but there's massive potential to do that. But I just still think Call of Duty's got the, for want of a better word, for lack of a better word, the balls to just like do it properly. Call of Duty is quite a neutered series now. I mean, to be fair, this new version of Infinity Ward, they have shown some testosterone in Modern Warfare 1 and 2. In Modern Warfare 1 in particular, I mean, that had GameSpot journalists crying over the safe house level. Like, the reaction to that was incredible. They were in tears, some of them journalists, because they had the balls to have you going through a terrorist safe house in London, you know. And it, of course, I should say of course, but you know, the terrorists in that game, yeah, the Middle Eastern, and you're going through a house and you've got to, you know, if you shoot non-combatants accidentally, then that's on you. You know, the game doesn't end, you know, unless you throw a grenade in the pram, then the game doesn't put you out the menu. For us kind of sadistic individuals. Careful here with the flamethrower, by the way. That guy will just get you instantly. I always see that as a bit of a World at War throwback, that instance with the flamethrower. But yeah, I just remember GameSpot journalists were like, oh my god, I hope the game includes like a non-lethal mode and stuff like that. And you know, people were getting worried because it was like, oh, they're having us, you know, shooting Muslims in London, and it's like, oh, and it's like, well, that's kind of what's, you know, in terms of terrorist attacks in London over the last 20 years, and, you know, Britain and America, that's kind of the people that have been doing it, you know. If they set a game in the 70s and 90s, it'd be the Irish doing it. So it'd be, you know, it'd be, you know, not all the Irish. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but, you know, that would be the case. So Call of Duty was just kind of doing what it does and doing the current thing when it did Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare in 2007. You had a conflict in, you know, Eastern Europe and one in the Middle East. Very much like you're showing the Iraq War, and with Russia, kind of, Russia did the invasion of Georgia and stuff like that back then, and there was the Chechen, was it, as well? That might have been a bit earlier in the 90s, but, you know, they were just kind of doing stuff at the time, and, you know, they couldn't outright say those were the conflicts. Like, I think Call of Duty 4 just says you're in the Middle East. It doesn't actually kind of tell you where, but you can kind of work out from the map where it is. I think it actually looks like Saudi Arabia where it's in the game, but my geography may be way off with that, because it wouldn't make much sense. But, you know, and then they did the same again. That's where Modern Warfare 2019 was a bit weird, because despite doing that safe house level that was very realistic, it then had you in a fictional Middle Eastern country, which again is fine for a fictional Middle Eastern country, that works, but it had you fighting as Americans with the rebel forces of that country against the Russians, and I wasn't really sure what it was trying to say with that. I felt like it was kind of implied about the Russian invasion of Afghanistan, but at the same time it kind of wanted to be the Gulf War. But it didn't want to outright say Russia was the bad guys, because this General Barkov, I think, is the villain, is doing it on his own thing. It was a bizarre hodgepodge, and I didn't actually fully jive with it. It was kind of funny as well that they tried to blame the Highway of Death on Russia as well, because that's something that America and with our help did, which you can debate whether that's a war crime or not. I mean, that might have been a retreating army, but it was still an army with weaponry, so, you know, they were just easy targets to go down that highway. But I'm not getting into a war crime discussion. You know, usually we joke about committing Call of Duty war crimes on here, things I've done many times on the 20 years of Call of Duty series, shooting my own teammates all the time, or just shooting surrendering soldiers. So, yeah, we won't go down that rabbit hole. One thing I know, guys, here, the law is infinite ammo, I think, or ammo keeps respawning next to you, so don't worry about taking pot shots like I am here to take out these Russian tanks. But starting on the main point, I think they were going to do, of all things, a third-person game in Vietnam that was actually aiming for some horror moments. But I think the quote always is aiming for some Dead Space moments, which always has me a bit like, because Dead Space is an interesting one. I didn't play it until that many years ago, about 7 years ago, and I absolutely love Dead Space. Like, it's right up there with Resident Evil 4 in terms of like survival horror games or action horror. And in fact, I think in terms of raw spooks, I think Dead Space is a hell of a lot better than Resident Evil 4. I prefer Resident Evil 4 slightly, but there ain't much in it. You know, they're very similar games. Dead Space is kind of just Resident Evil 4, but in space with a few tweaks, really. And that's why it's such a top-notch game. But the crowd of people, there were a lot of people who didn't typically play those kind of games, play Dead Space, and I never used to really, they just annoyed me. So when I heard that Call of Duty wanted to be kind of like Dead Space, I was like, oh, right, okay, whatever, it won't be that scary, but it very well would have worked. You know, going through the rat tunnels was a pretty horrifying experience. I mean, the men that did that, they had balls, to put it bluntly, which is it's a phrase I keep using a lot in this series. I guess I'm trying to encapsulate time, but I'm gonna have to shut up and talk you through this, because this is very difficult. Again, I've done this sequence a lot, and to the point I feel like pretty comfortable with it, but this give me a few goes. The main thing is to get to that bottom bit, take out as many enemies as you can, and then you want to just clear the sides bit by bit. But this, I think the game, if you're struggling on this, it's probably because the game doesn't really explain it very well. Because when I first played this, I had to look at YouTube, and the commentator on that said this isn't a very well explained sequence, because you're probably getting near the bottom on your odd attempt and thinking, I'm there, how do I stop them? They're infinite respawning, and this is proper infinite respawning. This is COD 2, you know, COD 4 bollocks. But you've got to stop the respawning by hitting the napalm barrels. Like, you can see one there ahead of me, and you've got to hold square on it to do this animation. And, you know, the game does tell you there, Woods is actually telling you exactly what to do, but it's not abundantly clear. You know, this series normally signposts everything, so when they don't, it does stick out. I think some people who probably play a load of variety of video games can probably work this out quite easy. So, but you want to head far down left here. You want to get as near to the barrels as you can, but hitting the barrels is a bit of an awkward thing. Take out as many enemies as you can nearby, and you want to get woods nearby. and Woods and Hudson, because obviously they're, you know, invincible and they can cover you a little bit, not much, but a little bit. And you want to try and hit one of these barrels. And when you get near to it, you just want to hold square. Make sure your magazine's full if you can. That way you're not going to get caught out in an animation. But hold square. You're not entirely safe during this animation, but you do have some safety priority. And get prone. That barrel's going to explode. That's going to stop the infinite respawning. But more importantly, it's going to give you a checkpoint. And a sequence that you probably could easily struggle with over an hour trying to get to the bottom is trivialized and made a lot easier. And there you go. Just make sure you stay alive for a bit, because the checkpoint takes a while to spawn. And talk about a dolphin dive there. And I was on a bit of a mad one after that, so I was just going nuts really. And there you go. You'll get a checkpoint there as well, and you'll be happy. And then you got to go up the hill. Now, typically in Warfare, going down a hill should be a lot easier. Wait, let me word this right. Yeah, going down a hill should be a lot easier than going up one. But because of how hard that was, you'll probably find this sequence pretty easy. But it is a bit tough though, so make sure you've got all your wits about you. Again, it's just being careful. I know I talked a lot about having speed when playing these games, but I don't think that applies here at all. This is one where you want to kind of pick your moments to go quickly. So I tend to hug the right. I much prefer going the right-hand side as opposed to the left. It's just my own personal thing, but there's actually quite a lot of option here, so just go with whatever works for yourself. And you're just taking out enemies every so often. Try to look a bit unimportant, if that makes sense. That's one of the advice you get in Call of Duty 4 on when you're dying a lot, when you get those death screen quotes, which they removed in this game, which was actually really sad. They could have got loads for Black Ops. It's a real shame why they got rid of them. Just added so much character to the game, didn't it? Although, albeit you got a bit sick of reading them after you died 20 times. But yeah, try and look a bit unimportant. Don't aim for everyone. Just take out the guys that you need to, just to get to where you do. As I say, you get a checkpoint about there when you go prone, and I think I tend to head right. And the hardest bit is now the push. You can get too bogged down here. Don't aim to get from ditch to ditch. Try and push that centre, because that's where you're going. And because once you hit the centre, you're going to get hit by a mortar, and a cutscene's going to play out. And at that point, you've done this level in terms of any kind of challenge. So, pat on the back, you've done a really hard level here in SOG. But yeah, try and take a few of these guys on the left. I don't think I head into the ditch. I used to always head into that ditch on the left, and it used to always get me killed, because at that point I'm just pinned down. Anytime I stand up, I'm under fire. Enemies just keep respawning, and I can't do a right lot. These two sections of doing the hill, going down and going up, are really hard. So at this point, take prone here, get some full health, make sure you take him out on the left. They're going to stop respawning at this point, and then just head forward and you're going to get hit by a mortar. And you've done it. But make sure you save Woods here, because I didn't see a checkpoint pop up, and I'm quite conscious that, oh, there it is actually. No, you're alright. But now you get to see the power of the Python here in a really cool moment where Woods is pretty useless and Hudson just leaves him. Hudson even turns around. Hudson sees him there, but he just leaves him for dead. That's why you never trust him. But yeah, blow that guy's limbs off quite brutally, actually. And Woods doesn't even say thank you. That's quite something. But yeah, we're coming up to a sequence here, and this will actually get you a trophy, what I'm about to do. So if you're going after the trophy, which involves only using 6 rockets to destroy the 6 tanks, follow this, and I will release that video separately. It'll be a bit longer than my last trophy guide, which was like under a minute. So get in the Jeep that's officially sponsored, I noticed that then. But one thing I do with the China Lake here, guys, I mean, I've never died in this sequence, but the minute you fire, just reload, because it takes so long to do the actual pump, which I assume is putting the grenade into the chamber ready to fire. I'm not a gun person, I don't know how it works. But yeah, just press square every time you fire, and it'll just load another one up. And you always get an ammo refill anyway, and if you don't want to use it, use the M60. So, in terms of getting this trophy, you've just got to be patient. I mean, the first one's pretty easy, that's not hard at all. So, I say, keep taking them out. I like using the China Lake because you never really use it. It's a pretty awful weapon. But I mean, in the campaign, it is pretty useful. But I say, follow this trick of just reloading after every grenade launched. I mean, it's cool because you get some really cool gibs. But they did a good job of making these Vietnam levels. They do feel like a bit of continuation of the Pacific Theatre, just because of the nature of the combat and the tactics. This rocket needs to go up and then down, and just wait for this one to line up in a good spot. Again, you're not going to die, even on Veteran. I've never died while waiting on the turret, and I've waited there a pretty long time before. I'm not saying you can't die. I'm sure you can, because these are not difficulties that like to give you much leeway with anything. But I will say, I don't think you need to worry too much here. Just take it steady and enjoy this. This is your power fantasy after really struggling in this level, and it's giving you a hard time. So enjoy this moment. This is one of the hard rockets. Wait for it to go over that little mound, then get it, because otherwise you've got to try and lift it over and up. It's like taking a really short free kick in football. You're going right up and over. It's harder to do. So let it go over that little bit of mound, and you're taking 5 out. There's only 1 left, and then we're going to get onto the 3rd level, which not the 3rd level in the game, the 6th level in the game, but the 3rd one. This you've got to wait for this tank to get in a good spot. It's in the camp with you, but there you go. That'll be the end of the level. I'll shut up, let everything play out. You can enjoy some awesome music again, and I'll catch up with you guys when we'll be in Hoy City during the Tet Offensive.
It's over. No. This is the start of something else. They'll be back. Bowman!
You look like hammered shit, Mason.
Would never do that to you.
Good to see you, Alex.
Jason Hudson, CIA. We're here to talk about your encounter with Russians in Laos. We got word a defector might be in play.
Today, communications are in chaos, and commercial flights from the airport have been canceled. While some
The Tet Offensive was the beginning of the end, when America really started losing the war. Inside the MACV compound in Way City, you established contact with the Russian defector.
No!
We know you did! He turned himself in at MACV! You were there, Mason! He had intel on Dragovich, everything, but it was a lost cause!
Shut the fuck up!
NVA had surrounded the city. MACV had all but burned to the ground. The defector was surely dead.
He wasn't dead!
It was a lost cause, and you still went in. Why?
His protection team had gone dark. I couldn't accept that he was dead. I needed that fucking dossier!
Way City. That's when things really started to unravel for you, Mason.
The defector.
MACV compound in sight. You are jumping into some deep shit, Woods.
We're here to yank a defector with vital intel on Soviet involvement in Nam. We lost contact with his security team. He may be holed up in the MACV safe room.
So here we are, guys, the final level that I'm going to show you. This is the Defector in Hoy City, and I remember it was the first time I'd set up my PS3 in a while, and I just wanted to put on a classic COD on an old level, and I was fancying Black Ops, and I think this is the first one I put on to just reaffirm myself with the game. Years and years ago this was, and yeah, good choice. I mean, the way the city, the skyline is just red from all the, you know, presumably just the fire and carnage that's going on, and it just shows the potential for a really good Vietnam game in its own right. You know, you imagine Medal of Honor or Call of Duty 1 where, I mean, I would do it so you play as 2 players, 2 characters. One could just be like a standard soldier on the front lines, and one is a MACV SOG, what, you know, Woods and Mason ends up with here, doing all the special operations and stuff. Kind of like how COD 4 did it with Soap and Paul Jackson. And because you could see the Tet Offensive from 2 different sides, you could be in the thick of it, on the front lines, getting the surprise, you know, push that the VC and the not NVA did in January, or is it February '68? I think it was. And then you could have a level like this where you're right in the thick of it, on the, you know, behind enemy lines, doing some top secret stuff, Black Ops stuff, shall we say. But here you get the Dragon's Breath, and I've just got like a compulsive thing where I will just use this for as long as I can. I never get rid of this. I'm probably one of the only people. Most people think just get rid of it because then go with the Commando. It's a far better weapon to go with. In that moment, I was trying to get the achievement with killing 5 people with a grenade. It did not work. That's a trophy I'll have to get later on. But this is a level that, again, I think you're going to find this one a lot easier than what you've just done. This is a very simple one for you to do. It's a case of just moving cover to cover, going back to your normal thing, and it's kind of a welcome break after Executive Order and SOG, what have just come before. I never save these civilians because I always use the Dragon's Breath, but I'm always careful because if I just go in and fire the Dragon's Breath, I think the game tells me off for killing civilians and just committing all kinds of war crimes. Even though I think just using the Dragon's Breath itself would be a war crime, wouldn't it? Because did the flamethrower not get classified as a war crime after World War II? I could be wrong on that. I could be totally wrong. I think, you know, you're not allowed to use one now, which is good for when I get called up for Ukraine, no doubt, one day. At least I won't get burnt. I'll just get blown up by a drone that I don't see when I'm asleep. But here I am switching to the Commando, and I've never really known what gun that's meant to be, because, you know, typically the gun of the time would have just been the M16 assault rifle or the M14 rifle, but they have this Commando that's a really unique weapon. And again, I'm not too sure what it's meant to be, but it's really awesome. So I won't complain too much about its inclusion in the game at all. But we're going to keep pushing on. Again, it's just a case of cover to cover. I really think you'll find this a welcome break after what's just come before. So we see a few people legless. Not because they've had a drink, but because they've literally lost them. So on we go. But yeah, I mean, could Call of Duty take a stab at Vietnam, a serious Vietnam War game? Absolutely. It's just whether they have the ability to do it well. I'm judging based on what their World War II effort was like in 2017, and I didn't think too highly of that game. I've come to like it a little bit more now, but I still think it didn't. You've got to have the minerals that World at War had to go in that strong and be like that, because it's one thing to do that with World, in theory it should be a lot easier to do that with Vietnam and potentially Korea, because World War II has had kind of some very interesting portrayals. It's it's been such a massive conflict and such consequential one that we've had 80 years of it being documented in terms of like films and Hollywood and books and stuff, and there was very much a phase of not showing the gritty side, as we talked about this about old war films in the last part. But then I'd say sort of since the 90s onwards, kind of there has been a willingness to show World War II in a really gritty way that it most likely, well, let's have it right, it would have been really, as opposed to what we saw. I mean, even shows like Band of Brothers that are pretty gritty in places, still pretty heroic at the end of the day. And that's because at the end of the day, it's, the good guys won. It's a war. Not many wars where they fought legitimately like that, whereas that one was. So, but for World at War to go all out and say, we're going to show this really nasty war, you're not going to really feel that good about winning it. You're going to feel like you went through the mud, the dirt and everything. And in the Eastern Front, brutality committed by you, and in Pacific, just brutality on all sides, really. So, but doing that in Vietnam should be a lot easier because the conflict was a lot more muddy and grey. You don't have to worry about making sure you portray it in a certain way. So I really hope one day they'll take another stab at it. I'd love Korea, but it'll probably never happen because China's a lot more, has much more influence now, and China are the villain from our point of view for that conflict, so they're probably never going to do that. But I'll show up and let this bit play out for story reason.
Mason. Reznov. How'd you get out of Vorkuta? Never thought I'd see you alive.
Nor are you, my friend. I am here with a warning. Your government would do well to heed. Dragovich is planning
It's such an obvious twist, isn't it, looking back? There's so many clues right there. In fact, they show you the Rizulka, the ship that, the broadcast station's from. And my understanding is that is the Defector, guys. I have always believed that guy dead on the floor there, he's the real Defector, but there's many clues you can see. I mean, stuff like, you can shoot Reznov, as I do here. Yeah, I've jarded that. You will never get a mission fail for that. Woods and Bowman don't interact at all with Reznov, but they're all little things. So, as I say, if you're just playing this Call of Duty normally, brain turned off, just hoping, just wanting the usual fun you get from a campaign, you're not going to expect that. And it's quite funny because Black Ops, I think Treyarch constantly now, they are seen as the thinking man's Call of Duty is a bit more with the campaigns, and you kind of got to turn your brain on a bit, but I don't think they're ever going to strike gold in that same way again because they just nailed it this time. It's quite something they pulled off. I mean, Black Ops 2 didn't really try and do any kind of twists, but it made an unbelievable campaign in its own right, and that was probably the best way to do it. Black Ops Cold War had one, but again, you kind of... Not a case of being a one-trick pony, because you can definitely hit gold again, but doing that kind of twist, yeah, I don't think they're going to quite pull that off. I mean, Black Ops Cold War was a bit of a twist, but you kind of knew something was up. They were a little bit more obvious with that one, with the character you were playing as and stuff. But what was cool about that one is you had the option of which side to go with at the end of the game. They didn't be like, oh, you've got to be, NATO. You can be Warsaw Pact if you want very end and just nuke Europe. It's quite incredible. The game just lets you do that, really. But one thing I'll say on this sequence, guys, in terms of difficulty, going back, making sure there's this little walkthrough and everything, you have chopper support. For the love of God, use it, because I think when I first played this, when I would have been 13 when I did it on Veteran, I just never used it, and it was always like, why? It was one of those where I was really struggling and like, why am I getting my ass kicked here? And then one day I just thought, hang on a minute, I've got literal chopper support. What am I doing? I can literally, use this chopper to just clear out buildings like that. So make sure you do that. Don't make my mistake that I made like 15 years ago. And what's interesting is when I played it this time, as you can see, I went on the right side. Normally I've always religiously stuck to the left, but yeah, for this time I mixed it up a bit. Now, tech cover in this section here, because there's going to be the tank, and this is all like a scripted sequence. Make sure you tag the tank, and then I did actually have a bit of difficulty with this sequence. It's probably the most footage I had to cut till now, which is surprising. So, again, I'd say this is a level where you're probably going to veer more on the defensive side of things. But there is a bit of infinite respawn in here, so just make sure you're going steady, but not to a fault like that. That guy kept appearing. Now, that is cool to shoot him because of the way the body just flops off. I mean, that's very much some COD 4 World at War. You know, infinite respawning, just giving you no time to react whatsoever. But they are a lot slower at reacting, so that's where your advantage comes in to move on. I mean, look at this. This was ridiculous. I think, yeah, to a point I just said, stop this, I'm going. I'll just ignore it. But yeah, if you keep that Dragon's Breath, that's worth keeping, because, you know, close quarter combat like this, you can take enemies out like that. Just buys you a couple seconds now and then. But if you guys are enjoying this series, please let me know. If you would prefer videos to be a bit shorter and just do level to level, I don't mind, because I will admit, gearing up and doing like 45 to 50 minute commentaries is taking it out of my throat. So you know, I'm having to take a few breaks and take some water breaks here. So if you would prefer it short, let me know. But I just thought lengthy videos lets me get them out a bit quicker. And yeah, again, I don't know what kind of release schedule we're going to have for videos at the minute on YouTube. It's just going to be as and when. So I'm not going to commit to anything that I don't think I can quite achieve. But you know, do expect stuff, guys, because I've got ideas that I want to get done. I can't finish the channel without certain things being done. I think once Uncharted 4 in particular is done, then that puts away a big like shadow that's currently looming over. So I'll be very much targeting getting that done. Hopefully it delivers. And I think as well, MGS4, something has to be done on MGS4. If I don't get MGS4 on the channel, then I'm going to feel like I've not completed certain stuff I should have done. And make sure you go this way, guys. Make sure you go left around the building. Makes life a lot easier, and you'll get a checkpoint there. I will rather stupidly die there. I think I was just stupid. I think in moments like this, when you've got to rush through gates and stuff, let your team go sometimes, and then go afterwards. You don't get stuck trying to follow Woods' backside and getting just mowed down, because it very easily happens. We've all done it. But yeah, jump to the car and then jump to Woods, and you'll get like one of these cutscene sort of moments, quick time events. Because somebody, Activision, both sides of Treyarch and Infinity Ward, love Resident Evil 4 apparently in the quick time events. It took a long time for them to commit to getting rid of them. Even now they still use them, don't they? So I don't know why I said that. Completely incorrect. Wrong video. Dislike everything. Not that anyone ever sees a dislike counter. I mean, what a strange decision from YouTube that's been. Just totally segueing. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when YouTube videos had stars. You know, like you rated a video on stars and just it used the general rating, like, you know, like plenty of stuff does. So you'd see a video have like 2 stars or 5 stars, and that's how you knew it was quality. You would also get like variations, like so much of 1 star be filled, so you could get like 4.1 basically. But I quite liked that system of doing it. But yeah, removing dislikes was just the most moronic thing ever, because you could click on a video and pretty quickly know that this was a waste of time. There's plenty of videos I disliked, not to be a hater, but you know, because you watched it and you thought this is clickbait or whatever, and you could sense it a mile off. And I think huge amount of dislikes would actually affect the videos, you know, how likely it was to appear and stuff. So it's a hugely important thing. I mean, I assume that still holds the key, disliking videos, but you know, it should still be there, present to all. I mean, you could always... There must have just been... I don't know if people had bots back then, who knows, maybe it'll all come out one day, but every video always had the dislike. There must have been people that just for fun just went through every popular music video of all time and just said, dislike, dislike. You know, I don't like this one, Born to Run Bruce Springsteen, dislike. And it'd always have like a few hundred dislikes on any video. All the popular COD YouTubers at the time we used to watch, like Syndicate and Syndicate, Ali Ames, Dark JD, all those kind of people. Always just be a few hundred dislikes in every video, just for a laugh, really. Now we get to the end of this mission. Once you've got to here, guys, again, it's pretty straightforward. They set up a cool, interesting moment here that makes you think you're going to get a COD 4 section where you're holding out with Macmillan and Price in like Chernobyl, but they don't really commit to this. You've got to be so quick with setting claymores about, and it's not that important, but I've kind of got used to knowing where to set them because I've played it enough times to know where they spawn. I mean, if you think it's only like 7 months apart from when I last played this game, so I know where the claymores are and kind of know where to set them. But they spawn really quickly. They do not give you much time here, so I'm kind of panicking and just setting them as I can. And you get an ammo refill here, just an interesting note. So I noticed the Dragon's Breath's back up to full. But C4 is pretty useful because you can throw it, double tap square, and it'll explode instantly. So handy tip to know, you can put that near tanks and stuff. I just get rid of all my claymores with one noob tube. That was quite the skillful play. I think I do the same here with the C4. I set that off. It's probably worth saving all this because you're going to get a much harder second wave, but I just, in very foolish style, got rid of everything I'd set up by blowing it all up with a grenade launcher. But you're only holding out here for about 2 minutes, if that. Really nice, easy sequence. As I decided to pause the game, probably checking difficulty, making sure I've done something right. But yeah, it wasn't worth cutting that basically. But yeah, I really enjoyed this level, the Defector, really fun level to play. I do wish this end sequence they'd committed to it a bit more, but it probably would have had the potential to be a really frustrating sequence on Veterans, so I should probably be more grateful that it's not any longer than it actually is, because this could have been some COD 4 sequence of holding on like hell. But yeah, you'll get a moment where they tell you that they're retreating and stuff. I think, yeah, there are still claymores to be used, but I don't bother using any, so I'm just going to put some more C4 about. But yeah, remember that what you'll learn online is you throw C4 and you double tap square and you'll get to explode it like remotely without doing anything. You can still fire and do that, so really handy trick. But they set up so much here, like M60s are everywhere. It almost feels like it's made for co-op. And that's going to be one of my big disappointments with this game. Does not have co-op campaign. How is it still World at War is one of the only ones to have that? That should just be standard. Although having said that, after Black Ops 7, I'm not sure I want to see a co-op campaign again, because that isn't even advertised as campaign. That's advertised as co-op campaign. It is not meant to be played solo. I feel like Activision, this isn't hard. You know, one of your dev teams can surely get this. Co-op campaign. Make your campaign for single player and add the co-op as well. You don't have to make it one way or the other, please. It should not be that hard. But I'll end the tangent there, and I'll just say World at War and Black Ops 3 did it right. That's how you do it. But as soon as you set your chopper spot, you've got to run to the boat. You've only got 20 seconds, so just try and use cover as much as you can. The game's pretty generous here with getting hit. Don't try and take cover, just run for the boat and jump, and you've done it. And that's the end of the level, guys. And I will see you for the next one. You keep recalling for now. See you next time.
So much for the tense ceasefire.
The enemy's courage could be the result of their newfound ally.